Hey everyone, so the van is done and I am back on the road. I thought this was a good time to kind of reflect on my journey up until this point and talk about where I see my YouTube channel going and like my life going, I guess. And I've also been asked some personal questions about who I am, and I've been kind of reluctant to share those things, but I want to give you guys at least a peek into who I am and why I decided to live in a van and make videos about it. So it seemed like hitting 10,000 subscribers was the perfect milestone and the perfect opportunity to do that. And also moving into a new van is kind of like a new chapter in the journey. So it's a good time for a reflection. So anyways, right now the van is done. I am moved in and Autumn is moved in. And some of you might remember Autumn from that video in January of last year. I've kind of been reluctant to talk about this. We've been in a relationship, we're dating, and it seems like really bizarre to start dating someone and then tell 10,000 people about it. So I've kind of been keeping it on the down low. And Autumn is an excellent travel companion. She understands that living in a van is not always comfortable, and she's always down to have new experiences. She's pushing me to try things that I don't naturally seek out, and I do the same for her. And also, she's an amazing cook, and it seems like a lot of these van life YouTube channels center around cooking. So Autumn's going to get me to 100,000 subscribers in no time flat. So that's really cool. But in all seriousness, it's going to be really great to be able to share some of these experiences with someone else. And yeah, things have been going really well between the two of us, and I finally feel like I'm comfortable sharing that I'm in a relationship. It's kind of funny, when I decided to live in a van, I never thought I would be anything but single, and just because this lifestyle doesn't allow you to like set down roots anywhere. But Autumn's also kind of in a point of her life where she's moving around, kind of trying to decide where she wants to settle down. So I'm thinking there will be a lot of her in future videos. We have decided, however, that this channel is mine, so we're not going to try to be a team on this channel, if that makes sense. So like, I'm still the one producing the content, editing the videos, and obviously she's going to help me film and set up shots and stuff, and will be a character in the videos to a certain extent, but it's mostly going to be just me talking still. So if you're liking this video so far, you'll continue to like my content, I think. So anyways, and so I'm sure some of you are like, hey, wait, where's the video where you finish your van build? And where is the video where you leave on your trip? And the thing is, I'm planning a video where I go through some tips and tricks that I learned converting these two vans. And I'm going to try to consolidate it down into a list so that people who are thinking about converting a camper van or are in the middle of it will have a really informational, dense video to look at. And it's just going to take me some time to put it together. So if you want to see that, stay tuned. And then, yeah, I haven't left the city yet. We haven't left the city yet. We've been seeing friends, and we're going to go visit some of Autumn's family. And it's just kind of like not that exciting, and I'm trying to keep a low profile, so I haven't been motivated to break the camera out and film me like walking inside my friend's house to take a shower. You know, it's just kind of whatever, and we're all getting used to the van. So I don't know, I think once we leave the state that'll be a good time for me to start filming, but right now it just hasn't seemed that important. Okay, so why am I currently living in a van and making videos about it? Unfortunately, this is a pretty long story, and it's kind of like my life story. So I'll try to keep it short and to the point, but there's kind of a lot to this. One thing that I hadn't really thought about until I started my YouTube channel is that I've always kind of been interested in making videos. I remember my dad made some cool like stop motion stuff with a film camera when I was like a toddler. And then at some point he got a digital camcorder and had, I think it was Sony Vegas editing software on our home computer. And as soon as he got that, I started playing around with that and making videos, and it was something I had a lot of fun doing. I would do it with my friends. We'd make silly little movies.
So, that's the real reason. Well, that's the real thing that happened in Roswell.
And yeah, then continuing through like high school, middle school, and high school, if I had an opportunity to make a video for a project, I would.
Hi, I just wanted to preface this video by saying that we in no way condone the use of mind-altering drugs.
And it's just kind of something that I've always been interested in, but never really pursued before. And then in high school, I was watching YouTube. I subscribed to Philip DeFranco, and I'm not super into his content these days, but back then I thought he was pretty hilarious. And I remember him mentioning in one of his videos that he was having an issue being paid by YouTube, like they weren't paying him for some reason. And when he said that, it just kind of blew my mind. Like, I couldn't believe that he was making money just uploading silly videos on YouTube. And of course, I realize now that a lot of work went into those videos, but it just seemed perfect. Like, he didn't have a boss, he didn't have anyone breathing down his neck, and he could do whatever he wanted. And that always stuck with me, that that would be a cool thing to have. So anyways, then I went to college. And as a lot of you have guessed, I did study engineering. I was a mechanical engineer. And yeah, that's definitely something that's helped me build out this van. Although I would say even without my engineering education, I've kind of always been a tinkerer. I've always kind of had a knack for putting things together. But yeah, engineering school definitely helped a lot. So yeah, that's definitely part of who I am. And for my last college course, I had the opportunity to take like a cultural seminar course in China. And it was a month-long course and basically just like a month-long vacation, long story short. And that trip was probably the single most influential trip I've ever been on, or like the single most important event in my life. I think just going to China and seeing that there's a whole nation, like a whole billion people at the time that I don't think about or really hear about often other than like really high level stuff. You know, just going over there and experiencing their culture and realizing that in a lot of ways they're very similar to us, but also in a lot of ways things are very different, and things that we take for granted in the United States and other Western countries are not really what's happening in the rest of the world. And it just kind of like, I don't know, it just opened my mind to what life is in a way. And I know that probably sounds cliche, like some white kid going to China and having a life-changing experience, but it's true. It's how I feel about it. And it also made me just addicted to traveling, because that feeling of like having your perspective broadened is really cool, and it makes me feel more connected to strangers that I see, and just like more connected to life. So anyways, I finished that course and then had a terrible time finding an engineering job. And I worked some temp jobs, and I got a job at a software company. And when I was working at that software company, the work was mind-numbing. There's no other way to put it. It was just horrible. And I would always walk down the hallway to the bathroom, and it was like this beige, dirty carpet, and there was this huge coffee stain down the carpet. And one day I was looking at that coffee stain, and I just stopped and stared at it. And I recognized, like, I am programming my brain to memorize this coffee stain. Like, it's becoming a part of me. And I realized, like, I want to see something that's not this. Like, I need to do something else with my life. And so I decided to go to Europe. Again, pretty typical thing. And I saved up some money while I was working at that software company, and then bought a plane ticket to Europe and brought a bicycle with me. And I'd never bicycle toured before, but I somehow made it work. That was a crazy trip. I might have to talk about that in a different video, but basically I rode a bicycle all the way from Rome in Italy to Stockholm, Sweden, and I took a ferry from Denmark to Norway. But other than that, like the majority of the miles I traveled, like the vast majority I traveled were on bicycle. So I think I rode something like 2,800 miles that summer. And it took me 80 days to do it. And of course, I took my time. I would stop in a city for 3 days and then move on and go from campground to campground. And that was the most extreme and intense thing I've ever done in my life. But that was also a really life-changing experience because it made me realize that I can get by and I can survive with very little. And it's still possible to see things without spending a lot of money and, ponying up for the high-end experience. Like some of the best parts of that trip, in fact, I would say the best parts of that trip were being in like rural Germany and being in places where there aren't a lot of people around, where nobody speaks English, and you're just experiencing someone else's life and someone else's land in a really raw way. So anyways, I did the bike trip, came back, and finally got a job as an engineer. And I was a product development engineer for 5 years. But as soon as I started that job, I was saving money for something. Like I knew I was going to move on from that job. I really liked that job, actually. It was a good fit for me. It kept my brain active, which is always a good thing. But I just knew that working in an office wasn't something that I could do for the rest of my life. And so in 2017, I got into rock climbing. And I was living in Boulder at the time, and I rode my bicycle to the climbing gym, and I was walking my bike kind of next to this big Sprinter van, and whoever was inside opened the sliding door, and I had kind of known that people were converting vans and that camper van camping was a thing, but they opened this door and it was like a pristine apartment. It was a house, and like my mind was just blown. I was like, oh my God, that's a home. Like someone lives there. And immediately I was like, I want to do that, but I want to do it in a smaller van. And I think that's just, I don't know what it is about me, but I want to be a little more extreme than everyone else. And I think finally, now that I'm in my 30s, I'm getting away from that. I actually like being comfortable now. But at the time I was like, oh yeah. And that's when I went home and just like Googled small camper van hiker, and first thing that popped up, of course, was Foresty Forest and a tour of his van. And I was like, wow, that really inspired me. I saw his van and how he had things laid out, and I was like, he is a badass. He's doing all this crazy hiking, which is something that I had also been getting into along with the rock climbing. And I was like, this is great. I want this. I want to do this. So it took a few years of planning, but I bought a van, converted it, and then, I realized that that was the perfect time to start a YouTube channel, because I stumbled upon Foresty Forest's channel and then a bunch of other van life channels, and realized that it was a huge thing and a lot of people watched that kind of content. And the more I read about what it takes to start a YouTube channel, the more I realized that this was like a golden opportunity for me. So I think the rest is history. The rest you can watch on my channel. And that's how I got to where I am today. So I think the obvious question then is, where do I see this channel going? And the answer is genuinely, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm kind of shocked that I have as many people watching my content as I do right now. And to be honest, I feel like I haven't put that much effort into it yet. And a big part of that has been trying to find a balance between YouTube and like my traveling life, my personal life. And that's been really important to me. That's been a main focus. And I see a lot of creators push themselves too hard. And because I saved up so much money to do this, to travel on my own, I wanted to make sure that I, first and foremost, had a good time. So the YouTube channel has kind of been my second priority. And I think as I get towards the end of my savings and towards the end of this journey, it's going to become more and more important. So this year I'm really ready to hit it hard with the videos and try to innovate with my content and try to learn and start thinking about alternative sources of income even, maybe. But we'll see if that happens, because still my priority is going to be traveling. So with that said, one thing I know for sure is that I don't want to spend the rest of my life living in a van. It's a good way to start a YouTube channel, and it's a good way to see a lot of things, but it takes a toll. And I know a lot of other creators have talked about this, and I'll probably make a video about this when I'm getting towards the end of my van life days. And what comes after that is truly unknown. If I'm making money on YouTube and I have a good set of subscribers and people that follow me, I might transition my channel into something else. I like to think that I'm a pretty creative person, and there's a lot of different things I could do, and I like creating things. I know the kind of like maker space, creator YouTube space is pretty crowded, but I also think I have some pretty unique ideas. And yeah, there's also a chance that I will be buying some land and building a cabin or some sort of off-grid home on that land and doing that with Autumn. So it's kind of unclear what will happen. And yeah, it might be that I want to travel without a van, just book a plane ticket and live out of a backpack for a year or so and record my adventures. And if I'm making enough money to keep that going, keep doing that for a long while and just see the world. But I think eventually all things lead to me living in a house that doesn't have wheels. And I think that's an important goal to have for me. It's going to be important to my long-term health and just having a routine, waking up in the same place most days. I think it's good. You know, there's a reason for that. I know in history humans have been nomadic, but I don't think it's for me, and doing it in the modern world is really hard in a lot of different ways. And yeah, I'll talk about that in some other videos. I think a lot of the videos that I have planned that are going to be like most useful to a lot of people and actually provide pretty unique insight, I'd like to say, are coming towards the end of my travels, where I just kind of sum up my van life experience in a lot of different ways. And I'm hoping that those videos will help me transform my channel into something else. Maybe just travel content, maybe just creator content, maybe homesteading content, but we'll see. So I think with that said, that's a lot of talking about myself. So thank you for sticking it out to the end. As always, if you want to help my channel, you can thumb up this video, you can subscribe, and you can support me on Patreon. My patrons don't get a lot of content. I kind of neglect you guys. I'm sorry about that. It's just, it's all about having this balance, and I'd like to think that I am upfront about that. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Hey everyone, so I'm back in the van now, and I just wanted to share with y'all what's been duping and what's been blopping. And I gotta say, there's been a lot of blop and a lot of dupe, but it's all been pretty bloopy.
Bike with no handlebars, no handlebars, no handlebars. I shouldn't, but I can.